Okay, and away we go. You got your host Scott here with the Teal Shirt Report podcast in our inimitable Max Headroom fashion. Not to be confused with Mad Max, who does the Mad Max Mix.weebly.com on Wednesday nights at madmaxmix.weebly.com. Sponsors are on the ticker. Mad Max Mix, it is Wednesday night music request show, also by Lake Upala Hits and JC's. Thursday night live from the pub show. The Teal Shirt Report podcast is again brought to you by Saucerility and Capital, the madmaxmix.weebly.com, and Lake Upala Hits, lakeupalahits.com. JC's live from the pub show on Thursday nights. Well, we're going to talk Jaguars football, of course, in game one down in Miami. Miami was a 3.5-point favorite. It turned out to be one of those old-time. Well, it left me with the feeling of this is excruciating to put up with a loss like this. Gut wrenching was a term I used to use back during the Gus Bradley days and even during Doug Marone's tenure, right? Urban Meyer just barely got started. Then he was out. Now you got Doug Peterson fully entrenched in what is this, Doug's already third year? Trevor was with Urban the first year, and now the last 3 years been with Coach Doug Peterson. And you've heard the owners say there's no more excuses. But this is a game I told everybody on past podcasts. This is a game I thought the Jaguars were going to lose. However, we got teased into thinking they could win it. Jacksonville had a 14-0 lead. Things started out good. The most overpaid guy in the NFL, in my mind, has got to be Jalen Ramsey. I think he clearly got beat by rookie Brian Thomas Jr. Clearly, he's a faster guy now than Jalen Ramsey. There was a pass interference play. You know, we kept hearing all week, Jalen, he's not going to play. He gets a contract extension. Now he's playing. How about those apples? The guy that stole 3 game checks from the Jaguars back to last year. He was with the Jaguars several years ago. And he's not the player, in my mind, he once was. He can still cover guys with experience, but I don't think he's got quite the speed he had back in the day with the Jaguars, or even the Rams. Now he's with the Dolphins. He's had some injuries, and I don't think he's the player he once was. But he's the type of guy that apparently on defense, they've got him moving around where he can cover almost anybody he wants, the best guy that he thinks is the best guy at the time. He got called for pass interference in the first half, which led to the Jaguars' first touchdown, a 1-yard plunge. And remember this name, running back Travis Etienne scored from 1 yard out. Then the Jaguars later in the game score on a touchdown pass, 14 yards, Trevor Lawrence to rookie. And he got a touchdown in his very first game, rookie, wide receiver, Brian Thomas Jr., who now wears number 7, right? Jags are up 14-0 at one point in this game. Miami had a nice long drive. Finally, the Jaguars defense, man, they were playing great. Then they finally gave up the 70-yard drive. Miami scored, and they cut the lead in half, 14-7. Jaguars had a chance. The Jaguars had a chance to put the game away. They're on a nice drive. And then a handoff to Etienne. He's busting it up the middle. Man, he's got some space. He has to kind of fake or break a tackle. And then he's at about the 5-yard line. And somebody comes up and just, because I saw the highlight, and they just punched the ball out of his hands. Now, could that be avoided by Etienne? Probably not. The guy just happened to catch the ball right with and a lot of times when you go to punch a ball like that, you don't get the force on the ball or even catch the ball good. And he caught the ball good. The only way around that, Mr. Etienne, and I've talked to Etienne before. He's got a Facebook He's on our Facebook page. And I told him I saw the play. I told ETN, I said, I saw the play. I said, it was the guy made a play on you. The only advice I would have to ETN is he's got to be more like Larry Zonka once he hits the 5-yard line, or Don, remember the old bowling ball, Don Nottingham? He's got to be more like, hey, I'm wrapping up the ball on the 5-yard line, but a halfback is a halfback going to have the opportunity when he's cutting and darting to grab the ball with both hands, pull it in? That was the only protection on that particular play. Now, once the ball was punched out, it did hit ETN like on his shin, I believe left shin, then bounced in the end zone. Miami grabbed it. It was a touchback, and it cost the Jags a touchdown. And the Jaguars, if they had scored on that play, would have most likely put the game away. Miami got momentum after that. They came back, won the football game 20-17. Now, the defense, I'm going to give the defense high marks. They only gave up 20 points all day long. You're paying Trevor Lawrence a lot of money now and in the future. And Jaguars are playing a tough defense, a playoff team. Playoffs, Miami's a playoff team. And the Jaguars should be a playoff team too. These are two good football teams. And I'm sitting here watching the podcast on YouTube, the one I'm doing now. And you can see sometimes the speed will change. You know, you get a little delay, a little digital hiccup, click or clip or hiccup or whatever. So we want to thank our sponsor, Saucer Realty and Capital, for your real estate needs in North Florida, whether it's home, business, as far as real estate goes, home, residential, business, or commercial real estate. Saucer Realty and Capital. You'll find them on our homepage at bigjreport.com. Also, the madmaxmix.weebly.com. I was on Max's show last week, and we talked music, sports, football, what have you. Georgia Bulldogs still undefeated, Max. And after destroying Clemson, I believe 34-3, man, Georgia took more frustrations out and they beat Georgia beat Clemson 34-3 back on August 31st, but they beat Tennessee Tech to a pulp in Athens, Podunk Junction. Florida beat a Podunk Junction too. Samford 45-7. Florida's in the win column. And I did make a mistake on the podcast last week. I think I had mentioned the next game coming up for Florida was at Mississippi State. I was wrong. The next game is, I believe, a home game against Texas A&M. Then they go on the road at Mississippi State. Now, if the unthinkable happens, and it could, because Florida may have found a quarterback in the fact that Mertz got hurt, and now you're going with DJ Lagway, all of a sudden put up great numbers, but it was against Samford. We'll see how he does, because I believe he's going to start again this week against Texas A&M. I don't know. I think the plan is to start DJ Lagway, whether Mertz is healthy or not. I hope the young man is healthy, and I hope we have both guys that are able to go, ready to go. And as you hear me say, I've been a Florida Gator fan since, the early 1970s, going back to about 1970. John Reeves, Carlos Alvarez, and Tommy Durrance, the Super Softs. When I started following the Gators when I was 6 or 7 years old, they were juniors, I believe, at that time, coming off a big sophomore season. Florida State was off. They are absolutely 0-2, losing to Georgia Tech by 3 points. They got beat by Boston College, I think, by 2 touchdowns. Florida State's 0-2, but they'll be okay. They got a good coach. They lost a lot of players to the NFL. They're not the same team they were last year. Same thing can be said about good old Michigan too, right? Some of the college football scores: Florida 45, Samford 7. A final. Northern Illinois shocked Notre Dame. Northern Illinois 16, Notre Dame 14. Northern Illinois really had a good mid-major program for quite a while now, most years. Georgia 48, Tennessee Tech 3. Texas, this was probably the big game of the day, and Texas delivered for their fans. Texas 31, Michigan 7. That game was in Michigan, in Ann Arbor. Final score: Texas 31, Michigan 7. And Georgia Tech could not parlay the victory they got over Florida State a couple of weeks back, they lost to Syracuse 31, Georgia Tech 28. FSU, I believe, was off, and they're 0-2 after losses to successive ACC conference losses to Georgia Tech and Boston College. That kind of covers college football. My Ed White Commanders in high school football, they did it. They knocked off West Side in a game that was postponed due to weather. They must have had some flooding waters Friday night. Then they played Saturday morning. Ed White won the game. Ed White Commanders 20. Or as my dad used to always kind of jokingly tell me, how did the Commodores do? And I told Mad Max that story too a while back. Ed White Commanders 20. Westside Wolverines, nothing. That's all the high school I'm going to do on this podcast. You can go to our website at bigjreport.com. We do have a good many, maybe not all of them, but a good many of the high school football scores up, and we'll be adding more to the website. It's on the homepage. Scroll down, you'll find a little area. If you keep scrolling enough, you'll find a little area that says it does say something about high school football, and we're glad for you to go to our website. The website's really exploding right now. BigJReport.com. Check us out. I'm Scott with BigJReport.com. This is the Teal Shirt Report podcast on video and audio. Jaguars. I don't even think I gave you the final score of the Jaguars game. We know they lost, right? Jacksonville Jaguars lose. Sadly, they lose the game. Let me pull up some stuff. Jumbo Shrimp lost the game on Saturday. Let me take a look at some of the stuff we've got on BigJReport.com. On Big J Report Facebook group, I should say. There's no .com now on the Facebook group. It just says Big J Report Facebook group. A lot of rain in the area. I know we've gotten well over 7.5 inches of rain over the first week of September. The game is at the Swamp. Florida Gators 1-1, Texas A&M 1-1. I think A&M lost to Notre Dame. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. Florida lost to Miami. Now they have absolutely. Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois, but Notre Dame beat Texas A&M. Miami beat Florida. The Gators lost to Miami is what I'm trying to say. And then the Gators beat Samford 45-7, the final score. So as I scroll our Facebook group, currently some clouds, warm 73 degrees in Jacksonville, Florida at 6:30 a.m. on Monday morning, September the 9th of 2024. Still, that stationary front hangs on top of us. We've still got about a 70% chance of rain. Today, the Jaguars game, NFL football, Jaguars season opens. It was the Miami Dolphins 20, Jacksonville Jaguars 17. The Jaguars, and I'm not in the mood for stats. I will tell you that ETN scored on a 1-yard run. Trevor Lawrence did throw this was all first half stuff. Trevor Lawrence did throw a 14-yard touchdown pass to rookie. I think he's going to be a phenom. It's looking like number 7, Brian Thomas Jr. Then, he scored a touchdown in the first half. Jags were up 14-0. They added a field goal. Jags could only get 3 points after the first 2 touchdowns. Miami came back. The Miami Dolphins win the game. The Miami Dolphins 20, the Jacksonville Jaguars 17. Critical fumble. And I'm not going to blame it as much on ETN as some people are on social media. That was just ridiculous what some of the people are saying. I'm not even going to say who they are, but I wanted to go up and say something, and I'll say it on the podcast where we have, well over 10,000 listens on the Teal Shirt Report podcast. That was a good defensive play by the guy from Miami. He got lucky. He caught the ball. He caught the ball in a fat part of the ball, hit it with a good speed as he punched it out. Ball comes out of ETN's hands, hits him on the shin, goes into the end zone. Miami jumps on it. And that was basically your biggest play of the game. But Miami, went on to score. They kicked a field goal at the end. The Jaguars did have one more chance with the ball before Miami kicked the field goal. Now, when Miami kicked the winning field goal, it was they had milked the clock down. It was either going to go into overtime or Miami wins the game. Final score, the Miami Dolphins 20, Jacksonville Jaguars 17. Critical fumble. And it was officially a fumble, but it was a play made by the Miami Dolphin defender. And consequently, the defense played pretty good all day. They gave up 20 points. The offense, they just couldn't quite get it done. Miami should be given some credit for hanging in and coming back and winning. I did not expect Jacksonville. I did not expect the Jaguars to win this game. I really didn't. I picked Miami to win. If you go back and listen to previous podcasts, however, it wasn't so much me picking Miami winning, but I did concur with our expert who said Miami's going to cover the spread. And when you think about it, now, Miami really did not cover the spread. The spread was 3.5. The football pool I was in was 3. So it was a push in the football pool. It was as razor's edge close, like the people in Vegas thought it would be, with a 3 or 3.5 point spread, depending on which circle you found yourself in. I was in a football pool, and I'm saying, my goodness, in the football pool, why is it saying Miami's favored by 3? I did pick Miami in the football pool, by the way. I will admit that. That's probably the only time I'll pick the other team against the Jaguars all year. I just thought it was such a tough game having to go down there to Miami. Opening game. The defense, I will say this, the defense played very consistently most of the game. They did give up that one long drive. Miami did score again after that, but I mean, when your defense gives up 20 points, you're thinking you should win that game. You're thinking that Trevor and the offense should get 24 to 28 points. But they're playing a playoff team, the Miami Dolphins. So, NFL football, Jaguars season opens, Miami Dolphins 20, Jacksonville Jaguars 17, a final. Critical fumble, offense cannot get it done. They just couldn't get it done. I'm not going to look at the stats right now. I'll probably look at the stats on the next podcast we do. We're gonna now call this episode, as the season opens, let's call this episode show number 50. We may do a 50A in the next one, but we're going to call this one 50. Episode show number 50 of the Teal Shirt Report podcast. We appreciate you guys tuning in. On the next podcast, we will embark in some North Florida entertainment. I will tell you, the last game I checked on the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, they came up short. The Jaguars defense playing solid football. The Jaguars held a 7-0 lead in the second quarter. Only scored that juncture was Jags running back Travis Etienne with a 1-yard TD run back in the first quarter. That was something that I had actually posted or typed up on Twitter, which is now known as the X. As far as AAA baseball goes, I didn't check the Sunday score. Maybe we'll do that before we go here. Jumbo Shrimp, AAA baseball. Jumbo Shrimp baseball update. Louisville 4, Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp 3. Final score on Saturday night, September the 7th of 2024. It's been a rough year for the Jumbo Shrimp as they now fall to 64-71 and are currently playing on the road up in Louisville. The last game for that series should have been on Monday. Let's see if we can check the Sunday score real quick for you. I think we're going to do North Florida entertainment on the next cast, where we talk about concerts. We have talked about some college football, the SEC. We will get our SEC power rankings together. There's not been that many conference games yet. Florida's 1-1, but they've not played a conference game yet. Georgia has not played a conference game either. We'll get back on Sunday, September the 8th. The Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp come back with a nice, they out-hit the Louisville Bats. I think they're called the Louisville Bats, I believe. Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp 9, the Louisville Bats 8. The Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp had 18 hits on that Sunday game, September the 8th. So nice to see the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp win on Sunday. Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp 9, Louisville 8. The final score, Jumbo Shrimp with 18 hits in that game. There wasn't much pitching. Jumbo Shrimp improved Sunday to 65 and 71. High school football, I told you about Ed White beating the West Side 20-0. The rest of the high school football scores, or a good many of them, and we'll be adding more, but a good many of them will be on our website at bigjreport.com. Special thanks to our sponsors, Salsa Realty and Capital. And you can see our sponsors. If you're on YouTube, you can see our sponsors in the ticker. We're brought to you by Salsa Realty and Capital, madmaxmix.weebly.com, Max's Wednesday night request show. And we're also brought to you by Lake Eufaula Hits, LakeEufaulaHits.com. Great internet radio where it's all good. JC has a live show from the pub on Thursday nights. Mad Max's show is on Wednesday nights with the Mad Max Mix.weebly.com. We're going to wrap it up. We're going to have more of an expanded podcast with North Florida Entertainment coming up the next time around. Thank you for tuning in to the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Monday morning edition, September the 9th already. Jaguars lose. Miami, it was excruciating. It was one of those old style Gus Bradley gut-wrenching losses. That's how I could put it. I mean, the Jaguars were up 14-0. They shouldn't have won this game the way we talked before the podcast, but they had a chance, and once the game got going, they really should have won it. The Miami Dolphins 20, Jacksonville Jaguars 17, the final score. Special thanks to our producers, our executive producer, JC, another producer, Alex Nundry, and special thanks to our contributor and our correspondent, John Gaylor. We're going to make this episode show number 50. We'll probably be back with 50A on the next one, but we're going to put this one in the can for now. You guys have a great day. Thank you for listening to the Teal Shirt Report podcast. I am absolutely your host, Scott. The coffee was great. The football, good in some parts. A lot of NFL games. Should I hit the NFL scoreboard before we go? Let's take a look at some NFL scores. I posted some NFL score on the X. You can follow us on the X, of course. If you want to follow us on the X, we are... It's hard for me to find it myself. Scott Mullis at Big J Report. Scott, follow us. We got several hundred followers thus far. NFL football, Pittsburgh Steelers 18, the Atlanta Falcons 10 a final, Miami Dolphins 20, Jacksonville Jaguars 17. Our executive producer is going to be happy. The Buffalo Bills with a 34-28 win over the Arizona football Cardinals. Buffalo Bills 34, Arizona Cardinals 28 a final. Somehow, some way, New England won that game over Cincinnati. I saw Robert Kraft in the locker room congratulating the New England players and the new New England coach. Somehow, some way, New England won that game. The New England Patriots 16, the Cincinnati Bengals 10 a final, Minnesota Vikings 28, New York Giants 6 a final, Chicago Bears 24, the Tennessee Titans 17 a final. So the Jags are still, after 1 week, they're tied with the Tennessee Titans at 0-1. Indy did play Houston. They did. Indy played Houston, and Houston won the game. Let me see if I can find that particular score. I didn't post that one on Twitter or the X, but I'm going to pull some scores up. The Monday night game, by the way, is the Jets and the 49ers. We're late tonight. Let's see. Checking some more scores of games. Houston beat Indianapolis. Houston Texans 29. The Indianapolis Colts 27. Chicago Bears 24, Tennessee Titans 17. So Houston is the early leader after 1 week in the AFC South. Houston 29, the Indianapolis Colts 27. Houston's 1-0. Everybody else in the division is 0-1. Pittsburgh Steelers 18, the Atlanta Falcons 10. The final score. And let's see, did I miss any others? Buffalo 34, Arizona 28. And so that's some of the scores we have from NFL week number 1. The Thursday night game, KC 27, Baltimore 20. There was a rare Friday night game, the Philadelphia Eagles 34, Green Bay Packers 29. And must be, are there 2 games? Monday night, Minnesota 28, the Giants 6. LA Chargers, I picked the Chargers to win. They did win. The LA Chargers 22, the Las Vegas Raiders 10. Gardner Minshew and the Las Vegas Raiders get beat. Denver battled Seattle. Seattle won the game. Seattle 26, Denver Broncos 20. The final score, and Dallas blew out Cleveland. Dallas Cowboys 33, the Cleveland Browns 17. That'll make Jerry Jones happy. Dallas Cowboys 33, the Cleveland Browns 17. And those are the scores. Oh, I got one more. How about this one, man? I love this. Tampa Bay Bucks, and I'm not a Bucks fan anymore, but I was glad to see him beat the Washington football team. Tampa Bay 37, the Washington football team, the old Washington Redskins 20, Tampa Bay Buccaneers 37. And yes, my friends, I picked Tampa Bay to win and cover that one at home. That's going to do it for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. We got almost all the NFL scores out there. Florida finally won game 1, beat Samford 45-7. Georgia Bulldogs still 2-0. FSU's 0-2. Northern Illinois shocked Notre Dame on Saturday. Back on Saturday, September the 7th. Northern Illinois 16, Notre Dame Fighting Irish 14. Texas 31, Michigan 7, a final. Syracuse Orangemen 31, Georgia Tech 28. The Bumblebees fall to 1-1. Georgia's 2-0. FSU's 0-2. The Gators are 1-1. Next podcast, we'll probably delve into the entire SEC and talk about Alabama, Auburn, and the rest of them. I know that Tennessee blew out North Carolina State. Tennessee scored 51 on North Carolina State on the road. Tennessee is going to be up there in our power rankings when we put them out. I'm not sure anybody has played a conference game. I think South Carolina did. South Carolina played a conference game, and we'll talk about them, and we'll talk about the entire SEC on our next podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. This has been the Teal Shirt Report podcast. I'm your host, Scott. Have a great day.